YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with the Cincinnati Bengals 2020 offseason plan/rebuild. I'll be doing this for every single NFL team going in draft order. So this is actually the first video of the series. Within this video, I'll take a look at the current roster of the team, give you my thoughts. We'll take a look at the cap situation. I'll make some cuts, and then we'll see what the cap situation could look like after that. We'll re-sign players. We'll sign major players in free agency, and then I'll give you a 7-round mock draft for each team. So I'm basically playing GM for every single team, and we're going through the whole offseason here. So really excited to do this series. As you see on the screen, we have two channels. We have this channel and a newer channel, the Goat House Plus. Please subscribe to that second channel. There's a link in the description in the comments, as well as for our Twitter and our Instagram. Every single day talking football on those, so please follow those. And then their Patreon link you'll find in the description as well, some extra content on there. Let's just take a look real quick at the Cincinnati Bengals depth chart, actually, and we'll kind of identify where they can get better. Anybody in red is free agents this offseason. So you see at the top, AJ Green's a free agent. You know, John Ross hasn't really worked out for them, but actually last year at times looked pretty solid. Tyler Boyd they locked up, in the offseason. I liked what I see from him. So they could use more receivers, given that A.J. Green's a free agent. John Ross's contract's coming to an end. Auden Tate's been a solid rotation guy. But yeah, the main need on the offensive side is quarterback, which you have the first overall pick. And then looking at the offensive line, they pretty much could use anybody on the, any spot on the offensive line besides hopefully Jonah Williams is healthy. I liked that pick a lot last year. He has potential to play left tackle or guard. I'm going to say they try him at left tackle. You see Eifert's a free agent at the tight end position. It's not really necessary to bring him back. They got a couple guys drafting Drew Sample last year, which I thought was a little early of a pick, but I think he could step up for them this year as long as he's healthy. Where they're set is running back. I like the trio. Really the four guys, but Rodney Anderson does have an injury concern. He is a heck of a back, but I thought Travion Williams was a great pick last year. I think he eventually could be RB2. Looking at defense, you pretty much can get better everywhere. There is some standout guys. I like William Jackson. I like Jesse Bates there in the secondary. Geno Atkins been an all-pro type player. Maybe he's going to start to be on the decline, but still, you could expect some great play from him. Couple free agents here. I like the potential of Jermaine Pratt. So mainly you need more linebackers to go along with Pratt. You may want some young corners. You got some free agents here, and you need to do a better job stopping the run. They didn't do the greatest job. I like their pass rushers. You could get better there. Carlos Dunlap had a good year. You could get better over Sam Hubbard. But a team that's a future team, a team that's not going to be, you can't expect to be great right away. Maybe you shouldn't throw all your cap at the veteran pass rushers this year when it's not a giant need. Maybe that's something in the future. So what I did, went in and made some cuts. Before the cuts, you got a $46.6 million cap space. So right now, today, $46.6 million in cap space. Obviously, it would be great if you can trade Andy Dalton. There's been, it's been heating up, the rumors on that. I don't think it happens unless the team trading for him, agrees on a giant pay cut, which we saw that with Tannehill last year. So it's very possible. It's very possible. But at the end of the day, to me, the Bengals will cut Andy Dalton eventually, so I think it would be dumb of a team to trade for him because they could just get him for a lot cheaper and just for free without trading an asset, in free agency after they cut him, because $17.7 million. So me playing GM here, I'm cutting Andy Dalton to $17.7 million, saving that. Dre Kirkpatrick's been a solid corner, I suppose. When you can save $8.3 million, I'm cutting him. It's not a team. I guess Joe Burrow played, if the plan is to get him, played at a crazy high level. Why can't he come in and step in and be, really good right away and make you a winning team? It's very possible. Can't really expect to win the Super Bowl right away. So basically what I'm getting to is you're in some sort of a rebuild right now. Kirkpatrick should not be part of that rebuild, especially when you can get $8.3 million by cutting him. Cordy Glenn, $9.5 million. Is it worth keeping him over that? It is not. He plays left tackle. I'm trying Jonah Williams at left tackle. And then you got Sean Williams. I think you want a better safety next to Jesse Bates. Is it worth keeping him for $4 million? I don't think so. Then B.W. Webb is a rotation corner, aging corner. It's not necessary to keep him around when you can save over $2.5 million. So you could see it ends up being over 88 million. So we're almost doubling the cap space here. And what you have to think about, that's the cap space for this offseason, but what you have to think about here is the future, because that's not the number for the future, but anybody that you cut or sign, it affects the future. So 88, we're not trying to spend that right now. A lot of it helps the future as well. And then we're moving on to re-signing some players. And you see at the top here, we have before the cuts was 46.6 and projected after the cuts, after my cuts, 88.8 million. And then players, major players I'm looking to re-sign. And this is a tricky one because AJ Green's a tricky one because I do not want to overspend on AJ Green. So I can't wait to see what the Bengals decide to do here. I'm afraid they may overspend. I'm thinking almost like a 2-year deal in the ballpark of 20 million. I have a feeling he's going to get more, maybe 21, 22 million, maybe max. Aging with the injuries, I'm scared to pay him a lot of money because of that, but because of the receiver class in the draft. It is a bad time to be a free agent wide receiver because the loaded draft class of receivers. I mean, you can get an instant impact guy like guaranteed in the first round. You can get a impact guy, a starter possibly day one, maybe in the third or fourth round. And imagine, think about the difference in price. Even with the first rounders, think about the difference in price. So I want to re-sign AJ Green because he is a top tier talent when healthy. We think it's been a while since we've seen him. And Joe Burrow had the top tier weapons at LSU. He's going to need them here in Cincinnati. So I want to re-sign him. I don't want to re-sign him long term. I don't want to re-sign him for a ridiculous amount of money. So we'll see what they do. But me playing GM, maybe he turns me down. Maybe he doesn't like the offer. So that's a possibility. Andrew Billings, like I said, the Bengals need to up their run-stopping game. And Billings is kind of a part of that. That's really all there is to his game. He's a solid run stopper. But the main thing is here, you can get him back cheap. And he's very young still. Very young. Plenty of, potential. He still can develop maybe a pass rush game, which he's kind of lacking. But I think if you take Billings out, it's not like he's a big-time player for them or anything. You can get better there. But if you take him out, I think the run game is even worse. And it's a young player with potential, like I said. And Darqueze Dennard, I think, is a fantastic slot corner. He a couple years in the league, right away, he was a little disappointing. This guy was supposed to be much better, and he's kind of found his role, and I think he had a pretty good year the last couple years. So, again, the guys like Billings and Dennard, I think you can get cheap, that range to $4 to $6 million per year. So you kind of can make your projections there after having $88 million. You're going to be just fine in cap space, after re-signing these guys. And we're going into free agency and major signings. Every team's going to sign more players than I went with 3 major signings for every team here. And again, some people may expect me just to give every team, the best possible player. That's ideal, but you got to take into account cap space. You got to take into account future, and the Bengals are a future team. They're not a right now team. So you don't want to get the crazy veterans, the aging guys. You don't really need to fill every single need right now. But they need a guard. I want to put Jonah Williams at tackle. They signed Bobby Hart in free agency last year. Little disappointing to be honest, but they have belief in him, so, and I trust that. So they could keep him, try him again at right tackle. Joe Thuney from the Patriots, I think, would be fantastic guard in there. Next to Jonah Williams, if you were to play tackle, it's a guy that's going to be on the field every single week. You're going to have to worry about, you don't have to worry about injuries, and you're going to expect him to play at a high level. So this is kind of your big signing. Why did Joe Burrow have so much success? Well, I mean, he's very smart, he's very talented, but he had a really good offensive line, a really good receiver unit. You don't want to take him from that, to just complete opposite here. That would be bad for his start to a career and could cost him or you in the future. So the priority here should be a guard. Like I said, they need another linebacker. I like Jermaine Pratt for the future, but they need somebody else, that's pretty rangy, that can, play inside or, kind of play that outside spot in their 4-3 base. Joe Schobert, to me, did a lot of that with the Browns, and there's kind of rumors that maybe he won't go back to the Browns. And the Bengals have the catch, so keep him in the division here. I think he fits that role perfectly. So kind of 2 big-time signings, 2 signings where you're going to have to spend money. So that's why all those cuts come into play here, and having $88 million, then you re-sign some guys, so then you're down a little bit, and you make these big signings. And then, again, I'm doing 3 major signings for everybody. But after some of these teams may have one where they spend big, some may have two, some may have three. I kind of got two big ones, and then Carl Joseph is a middle of the pack one, still a young safety. See him cover tight end, see him play in the box. Why I like Carl Joseph, he's still young. I think he pairs pretty well with Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates is the guy that he's a playmaker. He can play in the center field by himself. He's very rangy back there. Get a guy that can come up in the box. Get a young guy that still has potential. Change the scenery. He's not going to cost all that much, in terms of money, in terms of cap hit. But still would be a pretty big signing to me because I think he can start alongside Jesse Bates. I think they can complement each other, pretty well there. So you see some major signings. Another thing, I keep saying it, but to keep in mind is you don't want to just go and just spend everything this year. Like I said, there's some other, and we still have the draft coming up we're going to cover here in a second with the 7-round mock draft, but to fill some needs. But you don't want to fill all your needs in free agency. An example would be that spot like edge rusher. I think they're fine right now. Carlos Dunlap had a very solid year. He's good. Sam Hubbard, you could get better there. You're always on the lookout to get better there, but at the same time, you don't want to overspend on a free agent pass rusher now. That's just an example. When you're really not a team that's going to win the Super Bowl right now. So you don't want to, go too crazy. I know a lot of fans want all the best players. Everybody does, but it's not realistic here. So these are the major signings I'm looking out for, if I'm the GM. And then we go into the 7-round mock draft here. And then no surprise, Joe Burrow at the top, best player in the draft in my opinion. You take him in the first round. We cut Dre Kirkpatrick, so we're on the lookout for another outside corner, to pair with William Jackson, who I like William Jackson. Trevon Diggs, to me, I have a first round grade on him at the moment, and he fell in this draft simulation where I manually picked for the Bengals to the second round, which I guess is realistic because it is the 33rd pick, right there in the first round, right after the first round, basically. So no brainer there. I'm taking Diggs. And then Sadiq Charles, who was actually Joe Burrow's left tackle, was available in the third round at the 65th pick. I think there's a good chance he can go second, but it's possible. He's here at 65. And, I think, in the future, it could be a Jonah Williams with Charles. They do have Hart, who they signed last season, and they do have Jonah Williams who can move into the guard spot. So I think they could be looking out for a tackle. In this scenario, we did pick up Joe Tooney to play guard. So that's big time. So we could be, if they don't have Tooney, we could be looking for a guard in this area as well. Jason Strowbridge from North Carolina at the 97th pick. I like this a lot because, like I said, if I'm playing GM for the Bengals here, what we could use on the D-line, we could use another guy interior. We could use another guy outside. We could kind of use both. We're not going to be insanely desperate for either one, but you kind of get 2 for 1 here with Jason Strowbridge from North Carolina because the guy has reps at 4-3 end. He has reps at 3 technique on the inside, so he can play both. And yeah, kind of what we're missing if he plays inside, with Billings, with Geno Atkins, he'll get the pass rush, unlike Billings would. So that kind of helps. That's kind of a 2 for 1 there. Then Tyler Johnson, who's kind of been all of a sudden turned into a sleeper, kind of been sliding down draft boards, who's a big-time playmaker for Minnesota, but may not have, the traits of the first round, the second round guys. And then once those guys goes, we start to see some receivers drop a bit. So adding another receiver like this, kind of to pair with A.J. Green, John Ross, Tyler Boyd, but to kind of keep in mind, to me right now, Tyler Boyd's the receiver 1 because A.J. Green, we can't really 100% trust to stay healthy. If he is, he's receiver 1. And John Ross is 3 right now, but you get better with Tyler Johnson. You get especially great value here at 129, and you get Burrow some more help. And we get our third LSU Tiger. They could use another linebackers right now, starter worthy. I know the Bengals play with a lot of 2 linebackers. That's why we picked up Joe Schobert here, and Jermaine Pratt's very rangy as well. So those are the guys, but you really need more linebackers at depth, but a guy that could be a rotation guy, and I think extreme value here with Jacob Phillips at 160, and then you get the interior offensive line, which is depth at this point at 192, and you're still left with a good amount of cap space. Your team got a lot better here, and then maybe next free agency, we reevaluate the offensive line. We see where we can get better. Is Charles starting at tackle? Where's Jonah Williams starting? Is he starting at tackle guard? Where can we fill in, the spots? And then, we look at, we probably can revisit the receiver position. How's A.J. Green's health? John Ross, is he where is he going elsewhere? and then we look at possibly next free agency where you're going to take that next step. We're no longer in rebuild mode. We want to take that next step. Let's get a big time pass rusher in here. We got the quarterback. We got the weapons now. Let's get a big time pass rusher and get even better here. So that could be the outlook in the future there. But this will be my plan here. If I'm the GM, we'll see if they actually take a look at some of these guys. What they decide in terms of how much they spend on their own guys too. Guys like AJ Green, something I'm really looking forward to. But that's going to do it for the Bengals offseason plan and rebuild. Again, we're doing this for every single NFL team going in draft order. It's going to be a process, so stick with us here. Stay patient. I really appreciate it. Follow our other channel, our Twitter, our Instagram. There's a link in the description in the comments for all those. We really appreciate it. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.